Hello dear apprentice and welcome back to the studio. This is our week 5 day 33 mentoring circle, and today I'm just going to be sharing with you guys all about teaching others in order to learn, and we also will touch a little bit on sharing your art publicly, why we do that, and also how to deal with criticism and praise in that scenario. So the whole reason why I'm doing these mentoring circles with you guys is to, in a way, prepare you for really stepping into your personal power as an artist. I realize that it can be quite challenging when you start on this journey. I think I've touched on this before, dealing with art trauma when we grow up, and shame and comparing ourselves with others, and then learning this impossible personality trait of expecting perfectionism and expecting things to be perfect before we start, and that is just such a crippling idea to begin with, right? So I want to maybe encourage you to think of it like this. Maybe you were in a similar situation to me, where I haven't had access to professional training as an artist. And then there is this imposter syndrome that can keep you back, exponentially in your life. So what I want to encourage you is this whole principle of teaching others in order to learn. When we begin to teach others the skills that we do know, there is something that happens. That whole transference of experience and knowledge, even if you are still exploring the subject matter, can be quite empowering, because placing yourself in that position of mentoring, of guiding, of going first through the whole experience, I am a living testament of that. I've got no formal art training whatsoever. What I know about art, I've taught myself, and I've taught myself through doing, not just through observing and wishing. That is where I used to be. So let's start at the beginning. Before I became a creative coach, I was just a hairstylist, and that was a creative, challenging career all on its own. But I've had this love-hate relationship with it, because I really wanted to study art. I wanted to become an artist. I was interested to go in the field of textiles and things like that. At least that was sort of the path that was most exciting for me at that time. None of that happened, even to this day. And I think today it was just an idea that should have been my path, but it was never meant to be my path. The universe had another plan with me, and all I had to do is I had to walk the walk, right? So as a hairstylist, I had this love-hate relationship with it. It fed me, it put food on the table, and everyone told me all the time, oh, it's such a creative career. But I didn't think of it like that. I only saw the limitation of working on the palette of hair and dealing with people's inhumane expectations sometimes of what they think a hairstylist should be able to do with hair. I promise you, the amount of days where I told clients that my scissors aren't a magic wand, I cannot even begin to add them up. But regardless, I'm babbling. The important point that I'm trying to make in this is that in my career, I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel the creative expression that I needed to have. I didn't have the creative freedom that I needed to have. Because when you deal with clients, you deal with their expectations, you deal with their hair and the limitations of their hair, their budget, what would suit them and what they want. So you just give to people what they want. You don't really do what you want. Even if a client told me, do whatever you want, you couldn't really be creative with that, you know, and exponentially. You sort of still needed clarity. You still needed parameters within which you could become creative. Because even if a client says to me, do whatever you want, just make me beautiful, I couldn't just, rip out rainbow colors and slap it on her head and say, there you go, unicorn. Because I would like that client to come back. So I still had to fish the whole time, like, okay, so what was the extremities of my creativity? Where was the parameters? Where was the borders? Where was the boundaries? And only once that was made clear could I become creative. But then it wasn't do whatever you want and make me beautiful, right? So I really had to narrow it down the whole time. So within that restrictive boundary, I had to learn to be creative. But I didn't feel fulfilled for a very, very, very long time, because I had this whole desire in my heart to work with art, to paint, to create, to print, to design, and to really express myself in a very creative way. So now maybe some of you are professional artists and you will say, it's exactly the same as in hairdressing. When you are a professional artist, you also work with parameters and with boundaries, with client expectations, with deadlines, and you have to constantly create. But it's not necessarily what you want to create. It's not necessarily what you want to play with and make. So even for a professional artist, there's this duality of your professional career where you create to be paid, and then what you create to fulfill yourself. And that is the aspect of my creativity that was lacking. So I worked in a creative career, but when I got home, I didn't express or give myself permission or the space to create with paint like I do today, because I had a limiting belief that kept me stuck in a loop. And that limiting belief is what kept me sort of bound to the idea that because I didn't go to art school, because I have no formal training, because I have no idea what I'm doing, because I didn't go to school, I didn't even begin to try to figure it out myself. And so I was stuck in this loop of being unfulfilled in my career and having that love-hate relationship with it, and then, not feeling like I'm being met creatively where I feel I'm needed to be. So it was a great moment for me when I realized that there is nothing holding me back from buying a canvas, buying paint, and getting into it. No matter what it looks like, just start. And it was such a profound day. I'll never forget it. I had a full day of work, and I came home and I realized that I have this absolute desire and need to express myself creatively, and now is the time. So I got back in my vehicle, I drove all the way back to the mall, went to the art store, got 4 canvases, and I got just a starter kit of acrylic paint. And I think actually, give me a second, I'm going to just fetch this head. It's right here on my shelf. This is what inspired me. So, I think what happened was that week, if I remember correctly, this is far ago, I went into Woolies and I bought myself my very first Buddha head. Now this is not what it looked like. This has gone through an art transformation since then. This was just a wooden block with a wooden Buddha. It was all just brown, looking like wood. And this was a huge moment for me. I'm going to put it like that, because this is also the beginning of a total change or a transformation of my spiritual life. And that is for another video altogether. But anyway, I'm out of breath. This was on my coffee table in my living room, and that afternoon I sat there before I went to the art store, and I looked at this face, and I've always wanted to paint the Buddha, and I've talked about this in previous videos. I saw one of Whitney Freya's Buddha paintings, and I screenshot that and I kept that to the side because it really inspired me, and that's how my creative journey started, thanks to the Buddha. But anyway, back to the story. I was watching this beautiful wood block, and I saw how the light was falling on this face, and I recognized that this could be a model. This could be a simple way for me to paint the Buddha, because I've got a model in front of me. I've got light, I've got shadow, and I've got these simple facial lines. How hard can it be, right? So I went to the art store. I got 4 canvases. I got an acrylic starter kit paints, and I got some brushes, and I rushed back home. And talk about challenging. I decided to do 4 panels that when you place them together, it would make the face. So I divided the face into 4, and each quadrant of its face would be on one of these panels, right? And I started painting, and it actually turned out quite good, considering I've got absolutely no training whatsoever, and to start with a face. But that picture of Whitney's art kept inspiring me, and it kept sort of giving me the idea that you can play with it and you can be expressive. You don't have to worry about perfection, and that's sort of what I've leaned into. And regardless of how it turned out, I will find a picture and share it with you guys here. It really was the beginning of my journey. And at the end of those 4 paintings, I realized that this is making me feel awesome. I feel good. I want to do more. I want to get another canvas, and I want to continue with this journey. And that is really the beginning of my creative journey. And I think that was, just before or just after the year 2000. So this is like 26 years later now, now that I think about it. That is so exciting. So as you can gather, I've always dreamed of being a fine artist, but never gave myself the permission to do so, because I was waiting for validation and for permission from outside of me. And that was a profound lesson for me. So after this first painting, I mounted those 4 panels on a larger painting, and it hung on my wall for a number of years. Now that painting still is in my shed between my art collection. I keep it as a reminder of where I started, where my journey began, and I will always keep it for that sort of purpose. So what I wanted to sort of underline with this story for you guys is that at some point you have to start. Inspiration is a beginning, but I realized during that time that I thought I couldn't paint unless there was inspiration. So there was months that went past between sessions where I just didn't feel it. And when I didn't feel it and I was sort of mucking about on the canvas, I would ruin it, or I would, make it look contrived, or I didn't like that. So I sort of waited for the feeling to be there, for the mood to be there in the beginning, because then I would be creative and in the flow, right? But I thought it's something that arrives rather than something that exists within me already. So only really later, after my creative effect training, when we went through that series of painting exercises and prompts, one after the other, did I have a breakthrough and realized that number one, you begin by giving yourself permission to begin. And until you give yourself permission to begin, you won't really begin, because you keep waiting for validation and permission from outside of you. Maybe the next training course will give you the aha moment that you need in order to finally begin, or that missing piece of information that you so believe you need before you can proceed. I mean, I'm sure most of you watching this video can identify with it on some level, right? But when I placed myself in that container of now I have to produce regardless of how I feel, because there is a deadline, and after I gave myself permission to embrace the fact that I am the artist of my life and therefore the artist on this canvas, and I have to keep moving into that place where I can let this creativity express itself. Until that point, I didn't really open myself up to the flow of creativity. And the training with Whitney Freya was amazing, and I'm always grateful for that. But even after that training, I still had a deep struggle within me. And I'll never forget, I had a conversation with Whitney at one stage, and I said to her, so when are we really going to learn how to paint? In the sense of like going to art school, and listening to her, talking to me and challenging me, and really saying, it's all in your own hands. I can only give you the foundation of what I know, but this isn't a traditional art school. The Creatively Fit Coaching Training Program is there to connect you with your own creativity and to make you realize that you are the artist of your life, and to give you some foundation and principles to begin to work with. So I must practice with that. I must lean into that. It's not the beginning and the end of all. If I really feel I must go for more training, then I must find more training. But that was never the point of the Creatively Fit Training Program. But I wanted more, and I really devoured the entire course and delivered beautifully. But it was the starting point. It was where I gave myself full permission to lean into the desire of my heart. And just prior to my Creatively Fit Training coaching training, I did my diploma in logotherapy of Dr. Viktor Frankl. And with logotherapy, you really focus on what is your life purpose, what you find meaningful, what are your values, those kind of things. And through that training, I discovered that art is a personal value. And it's not one that's negotiable. It's one that I really need in order to express myself. And for all of these years, I withheld a creative expression because I believed it needed to arrive in a certain way in my life. So when I got into it and I started to make it the practice of, arriving at home and not just staring at the canvas, but actually squeezing out paint and carrying on, painting layer after layer, that is where the true transformation in my life started. And I finally heeded the call to the art in my life and to the expression of that art. Now, 26 years later, if I look at my art today compared to then, it is light years away, and I still have not done a single day of formal art training at all. What I know about art is through practice and giving myself permission to express myself creatively, to get to know my mediums. Through the process, I learned that some art you're going to make is going to be but ugly. Some art you're going to make is going to be successful. Some art you're going to make is going to be sold. Some art that you believe is incredible and beautiful will sit on your shelf infinitum et nauseum. So it's a learning curve. And again, through all of that, I had to really open myself up to my own creativity and not heed the outside voices so much credit. So I want to touch on that whole subject now of praise versus criticism. When we share our art publicly, we share it with our family, with our friends, with our colleagues, and whatever, you're going to get 2 or 3 type of reactions. The first one is, oh my word, that is beautiful, you're so talented. The second one is, oh, that's nice, not really my thing. And the third one is just, no, it's not my cup of tea. People will look at it and walk past and not be moved by it at all. And that can really sting. So the lesson I learned from that was that you are the one that must love your art first and foremost. Please don't create art to satisfy somebody else, unless it's a commission, of course, and it pays the bills. I'm talking about your own art. When you create, you must create from your own inspiration and from what lights you up, whatever that may be, whether it's the palette, the color, whether it is the subject, the composition, whatever that may be. Follow that, because it is in that journey where you give yourself full permission to create what sparks joy within you. That is where you will learn, you will develop, and you will grow as an artist. And even if you do create stuff for somebody else that you absolutely don't resonate with, you will still learn something. You will gain brush miles, I like to call it. Brush miles is the exercise. Brush miles is the daily put brushing paint and on paper or canvas, regardless of the end result. And I think that is a point where a lot of people stop. That is a point where a lot of people don't continue with their practice. If they paint something and it doesn't come out perfect, they stop. And then for a period of time, they will criticize themselves. I'm not creative, I'm not talented, I'm not gifted, I can't do this, look how horrible this painting is. And they abandon it. And for me, that is sad, because all creation of art is not about end product. It is not about getting a picture that you are painting to the point where it is so perfect that you can hang it on a wall, frame it, sign it, and boast with it. And I think because people think that creating art is supposed to be elementary, like it's something you do in primary school or in preschool kind of thing, therefore it should be easy. And because it's not happening, you realize it's not as easy as you thought it were. Therefore, you must be at fault. You are the artist, and you are not painting beautifully. You are not creating perfectly, at least not like him or like her, right? Can you see how we come right back to an art trauma that puts you in a position where you withdraw from a creative expression in art because you feel you're not good at it. And this is also where I encourage people to really look at their own creative voice. Painting is not for everyone. Maybe drawing is your thing. Maybe you need a hard medium like a pencil or a charcoal or a pastel. If you are a bit of a control freak or a control driven person, then I will say try hard mediums first. Learn to draw and learn to express yourself, because with hard mediums you have a lot more control. If you are an emotional, free flow, express yourself, throw paint at a wall kind of person, then liquid mediums are meant for you. Because you like to color outside of the lines, you like things to be messy and to be expressive, then liquid mediums are for you, like acrylics, watercolor, oil, that kind of thing. So this was a beautiful journey in that regard. So the daily practice is what made me become better at what I'm doing. And in that process, I also continued coaching. After my training with Whitney, I started with painting in the park, and I started offering these beautiful painting journeys in the park. And that was right after COVID, actually. I wanted to start just as COVID sort of moved over the world. So obviously we all know the story. We went into lockdown, and for 2 years that sort of went on. So for 2 years I was forced to practice. I was forced to create. And I think that sort of 3 months in the initial lockdown of 2021 was a blessing in disguise for me, because for 3 months I couldn't work. As a hairstylist, we couldn't go and see clients because it was COVID lockdown. So I had no income, and I was stuck at home. I just bought a new vehicle. Oh my God. So it was a very stressful period for me. But in those 3 months, to keep myself sane, I painted every single day. And that's when I really started with my YouTube channel, because I had time to begin to experiment and try these things, right? So after those 3 months, I felt ready in myself to begin to offer something. So as soon as those lockdowns ended in 2022, I offered my first painting in the park in the Botanical Gardens of Pretoria, and it was life-changing because so many people showed up, and I think we painted the dream catcher, and it was really a beautiful day, both for me as a coach and as an artist, because I recognized how far I've come and the things I've learned that day through doing rather than just wishing or dreaming about it was profound. For me, that was like a graduation ceremony, that very first painting in the park. So now, this is like 7 years later, I'm at a profound place in my art, and I really feel my offerings here on Patreon and on YouTube, and even in my private life, is really, really profound. I'm sitting in an art studio today. I mean, I started under a staircase in my flat in Silverton. I didn't have space for my art, so I was under the staircase, literally. If you watch my earlier videos on YouTube, you'll see me under the staircase in Silverton. That's where I started. That's the little sort of spot I created for myself, so that I have access to my art materials at a drop of a hat, so that I could come home, put my bag down, pick up a brush and carry on. So it really is essential to try to give yourself some space where you can just step into your creative mode. Because if you have to unpack things and open drawers and unfold things and build a easel and put things down, you are less likely to get into a creative practice than if you have a dedicated corner or space where you can just get into it. So I want to encourage you to share your art. I talked about this last week, I think, as well. Share it with family, share it with friends, invite them into the process, especially that peanut gallery kind of family member that always has an opinion but they never want to pick up a brush themselves. It is in that sort of teaching that you will learn a lot about yourself and about others and about your creativity. So that's really important, and that is why I continue to share my art. I continue to share my processes. So if you look at my offerings on Patreon today, this is not where I started. So this is a result of my daily practice. So if you're inspired by me, if you're inspired by my offerings, if you're inspired by my art, by the way that I paint, I want to reassure you that that is not just talent. It is very easy for people to come to my shows or whatever and say, oh, you're so gifted, you're so talented. And in a way, I mean, I take it as a compliment, but I don't put it in my hat and say, you know, because even though there might be some gift or talent, you know, involved there, I know that it is 90% hard work. It is 90% showing up and practicing, because those people that see a painting and they go, oh my God, you're so gifted, you're so talented, you're so good with color, they think I've arrived one day, picked up a brush and painted a masterpiece. So gifted, so talented. And I know in my heart that's not true. And it doesn't matter how I try to convince them. They don't see the hours, the days, the weeks, the months, and the years that I've invested to develop my art. And they don't know the amount of art that I've created, that I've thrown in the dustbin, because it's not even worthy to see the light of day. But every time I tried something, I learned something. Whether it be not to do that again, or how to do it better, or, you know, how to develop my sort of own style. And even to this day, I still have a little bit of the brush is not doing what I wanted to do kind of thing. And then I have to remind myself that it's my hand creating this. I'm not a photocopy machine. I must learn to accept my own handwriting. I must learn to accept my own brush marks, because it's mine. It is uniquely mine. And that is what makes my art mine. So I know it's easy to look at art around you and to want to emulate something. And that's a good place to start. There's plenty of artists out there that inspire me every day, because I feel like, yes, that's what I would like to express. And then I try to copy that. And it's through the copying process that I learn something. And then I will continue to work on something similar, but eventually I will let that sort of reference material go. And then I will say, okay, now it's up to you to express it and to create it in a way that only you can make it. And that is to lean into it and just do it your way. So I want to encourage you to use teaching others as a way to develop your own art, and to share that art as a way to get feedback, and to sort of begin to develop a kind of resilience, a kind of thicker skin, for lack of another word, around your art, so that you're not so sensitive when people say, oh, I don't really like that, or this is not really my thing. I've had two very different experiences right after each other. The one year I did my first solo exhibition here in Pretoria, and you know, I invited some guests and friends, and we had a lovely morning, and I sold out. I sold 99% of the art I put out that day, and a lot of that art I personally felt was like questionable, but it sold, and I got the price that I asked for it, and I'm very grateful for that. It really gave me a boost of confidence, and it helped me to clear my studio, because I ran out of storage space. I couldn't create anything new because I had no place for it to sit. So I'm very grateful for that. And the next year I thought I'll do the same. I invited people again, I did the same recipe, did the whole show, and I think 5% of the people that I invited showed up, and for the rest of the day I sat there twiddling sticks and eating the muffins and waiting for people to show up, and nothing happened. I think I sold 2 paintings, which is still awesome, but it wasn't the same experience as the year before. And then it was really devastating to me, because I thought, well, last year did so well, what's wrong with this year, you know? So I started looking at my art, and even though I felt I put out better art, I was misunderstood because in that particular exhibition, I did a whole series of Buddha faces, and in the area that I live, it is very traditional Afrikaans, very Christian, very conservative. And here I am, and I put my art out, and all my clients could see, and every sort of canvas I put out there was a Buddha or a temple kind of theme, lotuses, monks, beautiful temple scenes, things like that. Nothing sold. I think I'm lying, 2 paintings sold. But I had to pack up that entire exhibition and bring everything home. They're all still standing around me. They still haven't sold. So that was devastating to me. I felt like, oh my God, no. I really don't like that feeling, you know. So I had to have both experiences. This is what I'm trying to share with you. And that taught me that day that you can't stop painting what you love to paint simply because the audience that you happen to have around you don't understand it, don't appreciate it, and won't buy it. And then I went on to a whole mission for a year to paint stuff that I thought would sell. And I tried again for the 3rd year in a row, completely different venue, didn't paint any other Buddha faces. I did have 2 of them that I felt sort of worked with my new collection of beautiful still life and beautiful flowers and beautiful, you know, expressive plant-like material things. And I sold 2 or 3 paintings. I did, and I'm very grateful for that. But again, it didn't have the same rush that I had the very first time when I did a flippin' clearance sale. So again, I packed up my exhibition with a heavy heart, brought all that art home, and surround myself with all of that beautiful art. And for months, I had some of those materials on exhibition, and everyone would say, "Oh, that's so lovely, you're so talented," but it wouldn't sell. So those 3 different experiences really taught me a lot about my art, about myself, and about my motivation, the reason why I paint. And what I paint is the stuff that excites me and inspires me, right? So now I've learned to really lean into that for myself. When I paint something, I paint it for me first and foremost, because if I enjoy it, if I find it beautiful, then that is all that matters. I've never set myself up to become an artist that will, you know, produce art for selling art. It does help me to make a little bit of money in order to get art supplies, but I'm not going to paint anymore to please others. I'm going to paint to please myself. And if it happens to find a home, that's awesome. And here and there, I throw in something small that I think, you know, will work in the collection. And if that's the only thing that goes, then that's the only thing that goes. And that's perfectly fine, right? What I am focused on, however, is my own personal development. And I want to inspire you to begin there. Don't wait for the right feeling, for the right moment, for the right workshop, for the right group, or for the right inspiration to fall on you before you begin to create. Create space for yourself where you are able to walk in and to pick up a brush and begin before you worry about any of those other things. Because if you can begin to practice and apply yourself, you will develop amazing skills But in the end, people will also say to you, "You're so gifted, you're so talented." And you take that as a compliment and you say thank you. But in your heart, you will know it's got nothing to do with gift or talent. It's got everything to do with practice. There are those beautiful, gifted, and talented people that come into this world at the age of 5 and can paint a masterpiece. And that is the exception to the rule. For most of us, it is just about exercise and practice. And to have that, you need to give yourself permission to show up, to share that with the world around you, because it's in that feedback that we learn something. I hope that this has inspired you to begin, to try, and to continue, because the reward lies in that. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow as you share your art. Bye bye for now.